welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking on a genuinely fascinating challenge. We're synthesizing a stack of source material that spans some seemingly impossible territory.
It really does. We're looking at everything from Silicon Valley strategy, the philosophy of Peter Thiel,
All the way to 16th century royal mistresses, ancient queens, and then on top of that, cutting-edge psychological research on intimacy and desire.
It is a chaotic collection on the surface, I'll give you that. But the mission here is, I think, universal. We're hunting for the surprising overlaps between all these fields.
Right. We want to understand the foundational playbook for seeking power, influence, and personal satisfaction.
Whether you're trying to build a billion-dollar company or just navigate a genuinely fulfilling long-term partnership.
And the central tension here is what grabbed my attention immediately. On one hand, you have these incredibly successful modern strategists like Peter Thiel, who basically say you have to avoid competition entirely. The goal in business is to create a monopoly.
A 0-to-1 position.
Exactly, where you have no direct competitors.
But then you shift the focus to our personal lives, to relationships. And so much of the advice, the dating lore, it's all framed as a competitive market. It's about leverage, scarcity, attraction.
So that's what our deep dive is designed to resolve.
Yeah.
How do we apply that 0-to-1 strategy, the escape from competition to life and love? And what are the tools, psychological and historical, for achieving that unique personal position?
Okay, so let's start exactly where Thiel starts. Business strategy. His core concept is pretty provocative. Competition is for losers.
It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But his argument is that if you're competing directly with someone, you've already settled for just incremental growth.
We're not innovating.
You're not. Real wealth, real innovation comes from creating something entirely new. That's the shift from 0 to 1, not just making something a little bit better, which is the 1-to-N approach.
The comparison he uses to show this is, it's just so stark. Take the U.S. airline industry. It's a massive sector, creating hundreds of billions in value. Huge. But our sources show that back in 2012, when he was laying all this out, the U.S. airlines collectively made a profit of just 37 cents.
37 cents per passenger trip. That's nothing.
It's basically zero. That's what perfect competition does. It just drives profits into the ground.
Now compare that to a company like Google. Google maybe created less total economic value that year than the entire airline sector.
But they captured so much more of it. Their profit margin was over 100 times bigger than the airline industry's.
And the company itself was worth 3 times more than every single U.S. airline combined. That gap, that's the reward for monopoly.
And to understand why competition is such a trap, you have to look at Thiel's big influence, René Girard, and his theory of mimetic desire.
Okay, so break that down. Mimetic desire.
The key insight is that we rarely desire things, on our own. Our desires are mediated. We see what our peers, our rivals, our neighbors want, and then we want it too.
Ah, I see. So if everyone is just copying the desire of the person next to them, then everybody ends up chasing the same few high-status things, the same jobs, the same objects.
Exactly. And that inevitably creates rivalry, conflict, brutal competition. Girard called it the dark current running under society.
It becomes a zero-sum game.
A total zero-sum game. And that's why Thiel tells people to look for keys in the dark, for secrets, unique insights when nobody else is looking. Because the rest of society is just rationalizing these copied desires, blind to the real opportunities.
Which brings us to that famous quote. Thiel argues this is why you find the smartest people, say, from top universities, all marching toward the exact same handful of elite careers.
Investment banking, management consulting.
Right. They're fighting, and I'm borrowing the line attributed to Kissinger here, ferocious battles because the stakes were so small.
Yes. They're competing for a tiny slice of status in a crowded field instead of just creating a whole new field for themselves. The competition is more intense than the prize is actually worth.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for a startup. Avoid the crowd. But here's the tricky part. How do we translate that idea, escaping competitive markets, into our personal lives?
Into escaping competitive drama.
Yeah,
right?
And creating real fulfillment.
Well, this is where it gets so interesting, because the goal stays the same. Create a unique, non-competitive position, but the mechanism, the how, it flips completely.
So instead of maximizing market leverage...
In a relationship, the strategy moves toward maximizing collaborative structure.
Okay, let's unpack that. Collaborative structure. Our sources point to this critical split in relationship goals. You have approach goals.
Right, which are about moving toward positive things, deep deepening intimacy, bonding, having fun together, those lead to much more satisfying, caring relationships.
And I contrast that with avoidance goals.
Which is all about preventing negatives, trying to avoid conflict, trying to avoid rejection.
I'll bring up the dishes tonight so we don't fight.
Exactly, that's a perfect example. And those goals consistently lead to lower satisfaction, less responsiveness. One builds something new, the other just, temporarily stops the decay.
That distinction is so profound. If you're only focused on avoiding the bad stuff, you never actually invest in the good stuff, which ties directly into the science of desire we looked at.
It does. We see clear evidence that non-sexual partner responsiveness outside the bedroom, things like empathy, active listening, feeling understood, that strongly contributes to the desire to have sex with that partner.
So it connects emotional validation directly to physical intimacy.
It's a direct link. But you have a question there.
I do. I have to stop you as the listener advocate here. Is this dynamic universal, or does the data show a bias?
That's a crucial question. The data does show that this effect, where that enacted responsiveness directly fuels desire, is found primarily in women. In lab settings, natural settings, women are more strongly affected by their partner's responsiveness than men are. But, and this is a very important but perceived responsiveness, just the feeling that your partner is attentive and caring, that was associated with higher desire in both sexes.
So the immediate physical effect might be stronger for women, but the underlying need to feel seen and understood, that's universal.
That's the universal architecture, yes.
Which changes the whole game. It's not about seduction as a technique. It's about seduction as sustained empathy. And that structure needs communication. The meta-analysis you shared was clear. The quality of sexual communication is the strongest predictor of sexual satisfaction.
Especially in relationships that have lasted longer than a year.
Right.
And that leads us to the concept of minding. This is the framework for creating that collaborative, non-competitive internal world in a relationship.
It's not just being nice.
No, it's a specific proactive set of skills. It's strategic.
So what are the 5 components of this system? It sounds almost like the moat you'd build around the relationship.
That's a perfect way to put it. Okay, so they are self-disclosure, so safely sharing your true self. Active listening, not just hearing, but really understanding.
Okay.
Equality, so mutual respect for each other's power. Negotiation, the ability to resolve conflicts fairly. And finally, deep commitment. If you establish those 5 practices, you've built a unique, resilient structure. You have a monopoly on your connection that nothing external can easily breach.
Okay, but if transparency and minding are the keys to long-term satisfaction, we have to address the conflicting evidence, the hard-to-get paradox. Why do strategies that use scarcity or a little withholding, why do they seem to work at all, at least in the beginning?
The science is pretty clear that being too elusive just backfires, especially now when emotional transparency is so valued. But there is a sweet spot.
A balance.
A balance, exactly. The sources suggest that conveying genuine interest while maintaining a slight sense of mystery can be effective. It implies you have value, but it doesn't create frustration.
And we can't ignore the role of power in this. There's data showing that perceived relationship power predicts higher sexual desire the next day for both men and women. So feeling secure, maybe even a little ahead in that dynamic, it does fuel that initial desire.
And this is where we have to put up a big, bright red warning label. Because leveraging scarcity too far leads you straight into the dark side of that power dynamic.
You're talking about intermittent reinforcement, IR.
Exactly. This is creating dependency through unpredictable cycles of reward and neglect. It's the psychological opposite of the collaborative structure we just talked about.
It's zero-sum manipulation.
It is, and it's a hallmark of abusive relationships because it creates a behavioral addiction. The unpredictability makes it almost impossible to leave. The victim learns that love might come after pain, so they stick around through the pain, hoping for the reward.
And this creates the manipulative shift. Can you explain that?
Yeah. The initial joy of finding a partner, that feeling of finding love, it slowly, or sometimes quickly, morphs into a paralyzing fear of losing it. So when the manipulator cycles back from neglect to giving attention, the person being reinforced feels this intense, almost frantic sense of relief. It's a massive dopamine high, and it reinforces the toxic bond far more strongly than constant attention ever could.
So they get addicted to the relief from the pain that the manipulator caused in the first place.
That's the trap. And the victim desperately tries to figure out the pattern, right? They think, if I just do this differently, maybe I can control the outcome. And they just deteriorate in the process. process.
So what's the defense? What's the strategic defense against this kind of manipulation?
Boundaries. This is the structural integrity of your personal monopoly. This is the non-negotiable part.
And they can't just be ideas. They have to be practical. You have to communicate them.
They have to be really specific. You have intellectual boundaries, the right to your own ideas, personal space, emotional limits, refusing to be responsible for someone else's uncontrolled emotional outbursts.
And decision-making. The right to decide without being coerced.
And the power of the boundary is in the consequence. You have to move from the idea to the action. So instead of, I hope you respect my privacy, it becomes,
if you read my private messages without my permission, I will end this conversation and I will require distance.
Exactly. That is a clear, actionable structure that manipulation just can't get through.
This all brings us to the ultimate masterpiece, the historical figures who built personal monopolies that really, they transcended their own time.
We have to look at Ninon de Lenclos, the 17th century French courtesan. Her strategy was intellectual independence. She wasn't just a physical commodity, she was a philosopher of desire.
She refused to moralize it.
Totally. She saw it mechanistically, like a reflex reaction of the body to stimuli, a powerful natural impulse. Her monopoly was that she refused to play the competitive moralizing games of her time.
She created a salon based on wit and intelligence, not just beauty. She became an authority on desire itself.
And that unique power is shown in that tragic story about her son, who unknowingly fell in love with her. When she finally revealed the truth to cure his passion, he killed himself.
Wow.
I mean, even at 60, her charisma was so potent it could literally destroy someone who had no defense against her influence.
Let's jump to Diane de Poitiers in the 16th century. Her whole thing was sustained influence. She was King Henry II's lifelong companion, one of the most powerful women in France for 25 years.
Her monopoly was built on stability. She was the unchanging, reliable constant in the king's life. She outlasted everyone else.
And that detail about her health, it highlights just how deliberate she was. When they examined her remains in 2009, they found incredibly high levels of gold in her hair.
The drinkable gold. She was taking it to preserve her youth, and it's thought that it may have been what ultimately killed her. She was literally poisoning herself to maintain the facade of her unique, timeless position.
Finally, we have to talk about Cleopatra. And we have to remember the Roman accounts are incredibly biased. Roman patriarchy saw any powerful female ruler as this dangerous seductress.
Of course, but the strategy is still clear. Plutarch even noted that her real attraction wasn't just her beauty, but the charm of her conversation, her voice, her ability to speak multiple languages.
Her advantage was that she was uncategorizable. She refused to be legible.
Exactly, you couldn't just label her as a beauty or a ruler. She used that narrative asymmetry, that complexity, to ally herself with Caesar and leverage her personal depth into huge political power.
And her final move, after being defeated by Octavian, it's the ultimate example of controlling your own narrative, even in total collapse.
Octavian tried to undermine her plan to starve herself, her final act of personal leverage, by threatening her children. It forced her to negotiate, but ultimately she still achieved suicide, fiercely making sure that she, not Rome, controlled her final story.
So after all that, what does this mean for you? I mean, whether we look at a Silicon Valley founder or these incredible historical figures, sustained success, that personal monopoly, it comes from creating a unique position that can't be easily copied or commoditized.
But the sources show that crucial shift for long-term sustainability. In business, you maximize leverage. In your personal life, the winning strategy is collaborative structure.
So you move away from the competitive power games.
And you move toward approach goals, minding clear boundaries. The goal isn't just to be desirable, it's to be desirable but structurally, relationally, never consumable.
You now have the playbook for creating a personal monopoly in your own life, moving away from competitive scarcity and toward unique collaborative value.
Peter Thiel suggests humanity is at an apocalyptic crossroads because of this mimetic desire, facing either catastrophic ruin or some kind of divine peace. So if runaway desire and conflict are fueled by us all competing for the same few things, what specific, non-competitive, 0-to-1 area of progress or personal commitment can you build? Something that moves away from the status games of your peers and instead moves toward a sustainable, positive-sum future. That's the most important question this deep dive leaves us with.